Supabase gives you 4 connection strings and they all connect to the same database, but which one should you pick? This video breaks down every piece of Supabase connection string and tells you which one to use and when. Open the project overview and click on the connect button in the header. Here you can select the type, source, primary or read replica, and method. The URI works with PSQL, Prisma, Drizzle, and most ORMs. You will notice that there are more than one string. We will get to why. Let's copy the direct connection string for now. PSQL is the Postgres command line client, fastest way to prove the connection works. If you get an error like could not translate hostname, that's IPv4 IPv6 mismatch. Supabase direct connection requires IPv6, and if your local network only supports IPv4, you won't be able to resolve the host. We will cover exactly how to fix this in the video on IPv4 add-on. Let's select Session Pooler, which is IPv4 compatible, and try to connect. It seems like we are using a wrong password here. You can easily update the password in the database, settings, reset password. And finally, we are connected to our database and we can execute all the queries. For TablePlus, create a new connection, choose PostgreSQL, and import from URL. Paste the full string here. Let's name our new connection, click test before saving. It should tell us immediately if something is off. We can now connect to our database, see all the tables in the schema, and execute queries. For pgAdmin, right-click Servers, Register Server. Let's give it a name. On the Connection tab, let's fill in host, port, username, and password. Now we can see all the schemas in our project with all the tables. Let's add several query tools. This should open new connections to the database. You can monitor the active connections in the database, roles, active roles. Additionally, in the database observability section, you can see the database connections over time. Let's break down the direct connection piece by piece. The first part is the protocol. It tells your client to speak the PostgreSQL wire protocol. Here you will see either PostgreSQL or Postgres, and most clients accept both. Next, the database role you are logging in as. Postgres is a default in Supabase connection strings, but you can also use a custom role. Then your database password from database settings. Use an environment variable and never hardcode this. @sign is the divider. Everything before it is who you are, everything after is where you're going. Next is the host. It points directly to your project Postgres instance. 5432 is the standard Postgres port, and then /Postgres is the database name to connect to after login. And that is the direct connection string. The other strings Supabase show you change the host, port, and username, and each change means a completely different path to your database. Here is what they are and when to use each one. The first is direct connection. No pooler, no multiplexing, one Postgres backend process per client connection. The simplest path, your app talks directly to Postgres. One thing to know, the direct connection requires IPv6. If your environment only supports IPv4, you will need to use the IPv4 add-on or choose one of the pooler strings instead. Use this for long-lived servers with a stable control connection pool, an OGS server with a fixed number of connections that stay open, or Rails app with Puma workers. Next, we have two options in transaction pooler. The first is called dedicated pooler. It's a PgBouncer instance running on the same infrastructure as your Postgres database, same host as a direct connection, just on a port 6543. Like the direct connection, it requires IPv6 or IPv4 add-on. In transaction mode, each client gets to run a single query, and then it's sent right back to the waiting room. This stops any one client from hogging a connection. And in most cases, that actually boosts your overall query throughput. For most workloads, this is the mode you want. PgBouncer is the older battle-tested pooler, so it's a good option when using transaction pooler. The second transaction pooler is running through Supavisor, Supabase's own multi-tenant pooler. Here we can see that the username changed to postgres.reference. The pooler handles traffic from many projects in clusters. The reference is like a routing label that tells Supavisor which project you are connecting to. The host changes to regional pooler hostname, And this one is IPv4 compatible, so no add-on needed. Use this for serverless functions, edge functions, or any environment where connections are short-lived and unpredictable. This is a string that fixes too many connections error. Finally, session pooler. Same host as in transaction supervisor string, only the port changes to 5432. Also IPv4 compatible. It works the same way as the direct connection. One Postgres client stays assigned to you for your entire session. When you disconnect, it goes back to the pool. This is only recommended as an alternative to a direct connection when connecting via IPv4 network. If you remember one thing from this video, direct connections doesn't go through a pooler and works on a default 5432 port. On pooler strings, the port number decides the pooling mode. 5432 on the pooler equals session, 6543 equals transaction, whether that's supervisor or pgBouncer. Quick note on SSL. By default, Supabase allows connections without SSL to maximize client compatibility, but you can enforce SSL so that clients that don't use it get rejected. You can toggle this in the database settings. The mode matters a lot, and Postgres has 6 SSL modes. I'll add all of them in the description. These modes provide different levels of protection. For most Supabase connections, require mode should be the right call. It ensures encryption without the overhead of managing a CA bundle. The strongest mode offered by Postgres is Verify Full, and this is the mode you most likely want to use when SSL enforcement is enabled. And that's the connection string, a routing instruction in one line. The host and the port decide whether you are going direct or through the pooler and which mode. You can enable SSL enforcement, which will reject non-SSL connections to your database, and the role you connect as determines what that connection can do. In the next video, we will enable IPv4 add-on and we'll check the Supabase project's IP address. Thank you.